Ann Cotton is next, and her question next goes to Ms. Edwards.
Last year's unrest in Baltimore following the death of Freddie Gray highlighted problems that are too common throughout America's cities. What should the federal government do to help cities like Baltimore?
Thank you. And I've had the privilege of being able to meet with so many families all across the city in really vulnerable communities. And I think that we have to take a multi-pronged and simultaneous approach to these issues. I think about young Harold, who I met in a male mentoring program in the Hood. And Harold said, I like math and I love school, but I'm afraid in school. And so we have to make sure that we have law enforcement that is transparent and accountable, that works with communities, in partnership with communities, because that's the best way to fight crime. We have to also make certain that we invest in education and opportunity. It shouldn't matter what zip code you live in, that you go to a good school that has 21st century learning. We have to make sure that we invest in economic development targeted to neighborhoods that are the most vulnerable, by streets, by neighborhoods, by census tract. I've supported those ideas in the United States House of Representatives. And lastly, we have to make sure that we invest in research and development so that we restore domestic manufacturing so that people can go into jobs that allow them to grow into the middle class.
Thank you very much. Mr. Van Hollen.
I love Baltimore. This is a great American city. My dad's family is from Baltimore. The only reason I wasn't born in Baltimore was my dad went into the Navy. But years later, I worked for Governor Schaefer. And anybody who knows Governor Schaefer know he was focused like a laser beam on Baltimore. And I worked at the federal level to get more funds to invest in Baltimore, whether it was transportation, whether it was the port, other major engines of opportunity. We know today that Baltimore is a tale of two cities. You've got the glitzy Inner Harbor. Just a few blocks back, you've got a very different set of neighborhoods. And so we need to address this in an urgent manner. And I believe we need to, number one, dramatically increase the incentives, tax incentives and other incentives, for businesses to move to those neighborhoods. And the state legislature, the state senate just took some important steps yesterday. We need to build better pipelines between community colleges and institutions of learning and employers. We need to ask the big institutions, the anchor institutions like Johns Hopkins, University of Maryland Medical System, to do more to purchase locally and to hire locally. We need to build better transportation networks between where people are in neighborhoods without jobs and the jobs in the surrounding areas, so it doesn't take them 4 hours of commuting. We need to get at the economic underlying issues as we reform the criminal justice system and as we deal with accountability in policing. These are all important things that need to be tackled on an urgent basis, and I look forward to the opportunity to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Van Hollen. Ms. Edwards, would you like rebuttal?
Baltimore is our largest city, and in Maryland, if Baltimore is not doing well, then it means that our state is not doing well. And so all of us have a vested interest in making sure that Baltimore succeeds with the measures that I talked about before, but also making certain that you know, in the Congress and led by the Senate, that we get those federal resources down to the community level where they're most needed. We have a lot of big federal dollars that come into the city, but they're not targeted to vulnerable neighborhoods. And I would like to see a portion of that. It's been supported in the Congressional Black Caucus budget, supporting a portion of every federal dollar going targeted into communities. This is the way I think that we help to rebuild this city, rebuild economic opportunity, and rebuild confidence in the city that we all love.
Thank you very much.